The day the whole crypto community has been waiting for is upon us. Sam Bankman-Fried is in court before a jury of his peers. If he's found guilty of the charges laid against him, he faces decades in jail. His former friends and colleagues have turned against him, and his once mighty empire lies in ruins. But a vital piece of the puzzle over what happened to FTX and Alameda Research is missing. As 3 former executives prepare to spill their guts in an attempt to save their own skins, one notable name is missing from the lineup, testifying against SBF. Sam Trabucco, the former co-CEO of Alameda, disappeared completely in the wake of FTX's collapse and hasn't been seen or heard from since. No one seems to know where he is, many are wondering just what could have happened to him, and everyone would dearly like to know what he knows. So, in this video, we examine this mysterious character and try to answer those questions. Who is Sam Trabucco? What was his part in all of this? And could he make a dramatic reappearance? Let's find out. First, a bit of background. Sam Trabucco was raised in Massachusetts, growing up in the town of Natick on the outskirts of Boston. His father was a campus police officer at nearby Wellesley College, while his mother was a preschool teacher. By his own admission, Trabucco doesn't seem to have been, in his words, a normal kid. While still in 2nd grade, he had a poem published in a book of children's poetry and was more into solving maths puzzles and playing Scrabble than he was in playing tag with other children. Indeed, puzzles appear to be one of his lifelong passions, and he began publishing crosswords in the New York Times in 2015. If you have a Times subscription and fancy trying to solve his first one, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. He's also contributed puzzles to the likes of BuzzFeed and Queer Crosswords. Yep, that's a thing, apparently. An interview with him about his love of puzzle setting and solving that was also published in the New York Times back in 2018 is one of the more revealing pieces out there about him and his personality. I'll leave a link to it below as well. Spoiler alert, he also enjoys karaoke when drunk. Anyway, Trabucco attended the private Roxbury Latin School, which is only a few miles from Newton North High School, where Caroline Ellison, who would become Alameda's other co-CEO, was a student around the same time. In one of the most intriguing aspects of this whole story, Trabucco and Caroline appear to have first crossed paths at maths competitions while at school. Trabucco then attended a maths camp in 2008, which was also attended by Gary Wang, FTX's future co-founder. Then, in 2010, Trabucco attended maths camp again, clearly a glutton for punishment, and met Sam Bankman-Fried for the first time. There, they presumably bonded over whatever it is maths geeks get excited about. I don't know, calculus, algebra, putting letters in equations instead of numbers. Look, you're looking at someone who couldn't tell you a prime number past 7, so, give me a break. Anyway, in short, 4 of the core members of FTX and Alameda are massive maths geeks who have known each other since they were kids. Anyhow, Trabucco later went on to read maths, obviously, and computer science at MIT, where he was reunited with Gary and SBF. Trabucco and Gary graduated in 2015, while SBF had graduated the year before. Caroline also studied maths, by the way, but at Stanford, where SBF's parents were law professors, and graduated around the same time. Now, maths grads are particularly sought after in the world of finance, and that's where this lot mostly ended up. SBF and Caroline went to work at trading firm Jane Street Capital in New York City, while Trabucco moved to Philadelphia to work at another trading firm, Susquehanna International Group, where he'd previously done an internship while at MIT. It was around this time that Trabucco began to get involved with crypto and started trading it in his spare time. By his own admission, he wasn't enraptured by the technology or the philosophy of crypto, he just saw it as a way of making money. He was also a keen poker and blackjack player from his college days, and seems to have put his math skills to good use at the tables. In a tweet from 2021, he even admitted to being banned from 3 casinos for counting cards in blackjack. He also frequently talked about how the skills necessary to be a good casino gambler were vital to being a successful trader. Meanwhile, SBF had founded his own crypto trading firm, Alameda Research, in 2017, and Caroline Ellison had left her job at Jane Street to join it. Trabucco joined Alameda in 2019, having quit his job at Susquehanna and upped sticks from Philadelphia to San Francisco. It seems he and SBF had dinner there at some point, and Trabucco came aboard Alameda as a trader. Having got into crypto as a way of making money, he was now about to make a ton of the stuff. Now, it should be noted that Trabucco was never part of the effective altruism movement that SBF, Gary, and Caroline had gotten involved with while at college. For those unfamiliar, effective altruism, or EA, revolves around the idea that its followers should aim to do, quote, as much good as possible. SBF liked to claim that Alameda and later FTX were both started with this aim in mind. In his head, it was up to him to make as much money as he could in order to then give it away to worthy causes. Trabucco, on the other hand, was always in crypto for his own gain. And Trabucco did well at Alameda, so well in fact that in 2020 he bought his parents a $500,000 house in Maine, and then in 2021 bought himself a $9 million condo in San Francisco with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge. Alameda had by this point, though, relocated to Hong Kong, and both Trabucco and Caroline had moved there too. 2021 was also the year that SBF made Trabucco and Caroline co-CEOs of Alameda. And of course, 2021 was when crypto was in an almighty bull market, so we should perhaps be wary of portraying the gang at Alameda as genius traders making money against all the odds. Everyone in crypto was making money back then, and although Alameda had made big profits in the past, it had also taken some big losses as well, particularly in its early days. But in the heady days of 2021, it was a bonanza.
And you'll never guess who is in the car.
Hello and welcome back to GM Crypto. Now we have so much fun and exciting stuff coming up for you on today's show. But first, we need to talk about the Coin Bureau Deals page, Guy.
That's right, Jessica, because it really is the place to find the very best deals in crypto.
For starters, you can find bonuses of up to $40,000 at some of the best crypto exchanges.
And that's not all, Jessica, because you can also get discounts on hardware wallets, sign-up bonuses for some of the top exchanges, and trading fee discounts of up to 60%.
Amazing, Guy. Where can people find this deals page?
Well, just head on over to coinbureau.com/deals or use the link in the description.
By this time, SBF had also started another company for which he would become infamous, the FTX crypto exchange. And it's important to draw the distinction between Alameda, the trading firm, and FTX. They were, so it was claimed, entirely separate entities, even though they were both founded by SBF. Having a trading firm closely linked to an exchange on which it traded was a clear conflict of interest, and so SBF and others were at pains to claim that the two companies were not directly involved in each other's business. Trabucco himself pointed out that he worked for Alameda and not FTX. Talking to CoinDesk in November 2021, he also claimed that SBF, quote, is not really involved in day-to-day operations in Alameda. Caroline and I have been leading the charge there for quite some time. This is telling because, as we would later find out, FTX and Alameda were closely linked, so closely in fact that executives, including SBF, Gary and Caroline, were living cheek by jowl in a Bahamas penthouse and were throwing money around like there was no tomorrow. Now, we've covered all this in more detail in previous videos, which you can find linked to in the description. The short of it is, though, that Alameda was losing money. Lots of money. And as co-CEO, Trabucco has a lot to answer for on this count. As Bloomberg put it, quote, despite being one of the industry's top market makers and an investor in major startups like crypto bank Anchorage Digital, non-fungible token marketplace Magic Eden, and crypto payments platform MobileCoin, Alameda has made major missteps during Trabucco's tenure. Despite having been named with Caroline in the finance section of Forbes' 30 Under 30 list for 2022, Trabucco was helping to oversee a company that was hemorrhaging money. As the crypto market started to slide in the wake of Terra Luna's collapse in May 2022, Alameda's problems just kept getting worse. This was despite the company having privileged insider access to FTX via their mutual connections and a handy backdoor in FTX's software. In effect, Alameda was playing poker against the rest of the market, was able to see everyone else's hand, and was still losing. Now this is where the questions start coming thick and fast, perhaps the most obvious being, how much did Trabucco know of what was going on behind the scenes at Alameda and FTX? An in-depth article from January 2023 by the Boston Globe cited an anonymous former Alameda employee who claimed that Trabucco was not a part of SBF's inner circle. Moreover, while Trabucco did occasionally visit the Bahamas, where FTX was based, he appears to have been mostly based in Hong Kong. So, it could perhaps be argued that he was not privy to all the shady dealings going on behind the scenes. But then again, he was Alameda's co-CEO. It's not unreasonable to expect him to have at least been aware of the dire financial situation the company was in and the methods being employed to prop it up. Moreover, it appears that Trabucco was fast becoming disillusioned with life at Alameda, so much so that he resigned in August 2022, just 3 months before the whole house of cards came crashing down. In a tweet thread titled On Happiness, published on the 24th of August, he announced that he was, quote, stepping down as co-CEO of Alameda Research. At Caroline Capital will continue on as Alameda's CEO. I will stay on as an advisor, but otherwise will not continue to have a strong day-to-day presence at the company. Over the past few months, I have significantly reduced my role at Alameda. This happened gradually and has most recently involved a lot of time not really working at all, and certainly not acting as the company's CEO. The gist of Trabucco's thread was that, after a, quote, exhausting and consuming time at Alameda, he decided there was more to life, and it was time to, quote, prioritize other things. As well as seeming to distance himself from Alameda's day-to-day operations in recent months, he also asserted that, quote, lately I've been really happy, spending a lot of time traveling, visiting friends and family, working on myself and whatnot. Also, I bought a boat. That's been cool. I needed to relax, and I'm really, really happy. Ah yes, the boat. Now this was another one of Trabucco's indulgences and perhaps explains, in large part, why we've not heard from him since November last year. The Boston Globe article also notes this boat being purchased, though it doesn't give an exact date. However, an exact date was revealed in a court filing published by the current FTX administration in July of this year. As reported by Cointelegraph, this filing, quote, disclosed a series of financial statements revealing transactions that benefited company executives. The first transaction noted is dated 11th of March 2022 for the amount of $2,513,000 and is titled, quote, Cash Transfer to the American Yacht Group for the benefit of John Samuel Trabucco. So then, did Trabucco really buy this boat himself, or was it paid for using Alameda funds, or even client funds from FTX? Another question that I'm sure many people would like an answer to. Incidentally, Trabucco apparently named the 52-foot-long vessel Soak My Deck and hired someone from Fiverr to design the logo. Well, it's a memorable moniker, all right. I'll give him that. And SBF himself has also recently alluded to Trabucco and his boat. While under house arrest in California, SBF drafted a series of tweets about his predicament and his take on what happened with FTX and Alameda. Now, these tweets were never posted, but he did share the draft with crypto reporter Tiffany Fong, who later shared them with the New York Times. SBF is quoted complaining about Trabucco having been, quote, in the process of quiet quitting his role at Alameda and instead, quote, going on dates with a ton of guys while sailing around the world on a boat. So, Alameda's co-CEO happened to walk away from the company just 3 months before it and FTX went down in flames, leaving billions of dollars unaccounted for. The Boston Globe reports that, quote, in October, 2 months after he stepped down from Alameda, Trabucco went back to the Bahamas for his 30th birthday, celebrating with a cake that had his face printed on it, according to his friend's Instagram account. Then, the following month, things really started to unravel. CoinDesk published its famous article detailing the god-awful state of Alameda's balance sheet on the 2nd of November, and within a few days, everything was a smoking ruin. On the 11th of November, FTX and Alameda and over 100 other affiliated entities filed for bankruptcy protection. Check out our video on this whole debacle if you want all the gory details. Link is in the description. Now, on the 8th of November, Trabucco tweeted, quote, "Much love to everyone. I'm sure the past few days have been dark for many, and I hope the road ahead is brighter." And, after that, nothing. Not a peep has been heard from Sam Trabucco since, and when you stop to think about that, it's very, very strange. For one thing, almost all the other FTX and Alameda top brass have been forced to face the music. As mentioned earlier, SBF is in jail in New York City. Caroline, Gary Wang, and former FTX Director of Engineering, Nishad Singh, have all pleaded guilty and are expected to testify at SBF's trial over the coming weeks. Ryan Salem, who ran FTX's Bahamas subsidiary, also recently pleaded guilty to charges against him, although apparently won't be testifying against his former boss. Heck, even SBF's parents are now accused of having received money from FTX before its collapse. Now, the key person here, as far as SBF's fate is concerned, is likely Caroline. Not only was she SBF's on-off girlfriend for a time, but she was also a key member of his inner circle and, of course, Alameda's co-CEO. Her testimony is perhaps the most eagerly awaited of all. And yet, Sam Trabucco, the man who ran Alameda alongside her, has not only vanished, but hasn't even been directly named by the prosecution. Why? Now, it's important to note, of course, that Trabucco may not be guilty of any wrongdoing. That would be for the authorities and ultimately the courts to decide. Indeed, as Alameda and FTX were collapsing, Caroline admitted on a video call to other Alameda employees that the decision to send FTX customer funds to Alameda was known to her, SBF, Gary, and Nishad. Trabucco's name doesn't seem to have been mentioned, so perhaps he genuinely was unaware of what was happening. Too busy getting nautical, perhaps. But even if this is the case, surely Trabucco must have some useful insights to share about his time at Alameda. Can he really be expected not to have at least suspected that something was amiss in the months leading up to the crisis? Did he really leave Alameda to spend more time soaking his deck, or did he know or suspect that all was not as it should be? Was he really quiet quitting Alameda, or trying to subtly distance himself from the company, perhaps without anyone really noticing? Now, intriguingly, there is a chance Trabucco could appear as a government witness. On the 28th of September, a letter by the defense counsel submitted to the judge presiding over the case noted that, quote, "The court disclosed that it had been asked by the government to sign compulsion orders for 2 witnesses who will be testifying under a grant of immunity." In a follow-up letter the following day, the counsel noted that they'd been able to confer with SBF at the prison where he's now being held about whether, quote, "we will require the 2 witnesses testifying under a grant of immunity to invoke their Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination in person outside of the presence of the jury. We will not require these 2 witnesses to do so." Now, for reference, the identity of any witness in the case must be disclosed to the other side in advance, but not necessarily to the public. And any witness testifying against SBF under immunity will likely have been a pretty key player at FTX or Alameda. If one of those witnesses is indeed Trabucco, something which we can only speculate on at this stage, then it's likely the best possible outcome for the ex-Alameda CEO, if it means he escapes any consequences for his role at the company. But Trabucco may very well not be due to appear, which would only add to the mystery surrounding him and his whereabouts. Some have speculated that he's floating on his yacht somewhere in international waters, supposedly beyond the reach of US authorities. Perhaps he used it to sail to a country that doesn't have an extradition treaty with the United States. It does, though, seem inconceivable that he would simply be allowed to vanish without trace, even if he turns out to be innocent of any wrongdoing. The full story of FTX, and in particular Alameda, simply cannot be told without him. And so, as the day of reckoning approaches, the world can only wonder what happened to Sam Trabucco and what secrets he might be harbouring. For now, though, at any rate, it seems as though the man with a lifelong passion for puzzles may have just pulled off his greatest brain teaser yet.